So I want to take you all the way back to the very beginning of this whole thing, before the podcast, before I had any real idea what I was doing, which honestly is still true most days. But it started with a conversation. And I know how this is going to sound, but stay with me. It started with a conversation I had with ChatGPT. I'd asked what I thought was this tiny, simple little question about manifesting during a lunar eclipse. That was it. That was the whole thing. I figured it would give me some quick answer about the energy. I'd write a few things down and I'd go on with my night. But the more we went back and forth, the more something started to crack open in me. Because I realized, sitting there in my office, asking a robot about the moon, that all I'd actually been doing for months was wishing. I had the list, I had the vision, I had all the words written down, but I wasn't doing a single thing differently to get any of it. Nothing in my actual day had changed. The only thing that had changed was what I was writing down. I was a little more open to something different, but that was it. That was the whole shift. I hadn't changed a single thing I was actually doing. But that tiny crack, that little, oh, I'm not moving, I'm just wishing, is the reason you're hearing my voice right now. So today, that's where we're going. Hello, and welcome back to ICMM, Living Life Unpaused, the podcast version. I'm Abby Ventrilo, and if you're new here, this is the show where we talk about living life on purpose instead of on autopilot, hitting play instead of just letting it run in the background. Last week you met Chance, someone who figured out early what a lot of us spend decades circling. But this week it's another solo episode, so just you and me. And I've wanted to do this one for a little while, because it's my answer to a question I get more than almost anything else. Since I started this, so many of you have said some version of the exact same thing to me. You said, Abby, this is all great. I hear you. It's like you're in my head. I know I'm not happy, and I'm finally ready to admit that. But I genuinely don't know how to even begin figuring out what's next. I don't know what path I'm supposed to be on. So let's sit in that question for a second, because it's such an honest one. I know I'm not happy, but how do I even figure out what I want? And I want to describe what that actually feels like, because I don't think we say it out loud enough. It's usually not some dramatic movie scene rock bottom. Most of the time, it's way quieter than that. It's the Sunday night dread we've talked about, the one that shows up for a week that hasn't even started yet. It's answering, oh, I'm good, busy, when someone asks you how you're doing, because it's technically true, and also because it's so much easier than the real answer. It's scrolling at 11 at night, looking for something, and you couldn't even tell me what. It's this low hum of there has to be something more than this that's running underneath everything. But the second you try to grab it, the second you ask yourself, okay, what is the more? You've got nothing. You're blank. That blank is where people get stuck. And here's the trap hiding inside of it. And I've lived in this trap, so I'm not judging a single one of you. We've been sold this idea that clarity comes first, that one day you're going to wake up, the clouds are going to part, you'll just know exactly what you're supposed to do, and then you'll go do it. Like there's some amount of thinking you can do that will finally magically unlock the answer. So we wait, we think, maybe we journal, and we research, and we take the quizzes, and we wait to feel ready. We wait to feel sure, and we stay stuck because the certainty we're waiting for never actually shows up while we're sitting still. So today, I want to flip that whole thing on its head. Here's the thing I wish somebody had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me 2 years ago. You do not think your way into clarity. You move your way into it. We have the order completely backwards. We treat clarity like it's a lightning bolt, like it's going to strike you one random Tuesday, and then you'll finally be allowed to act. But clarity almost never arrives like lightning. It doesn't come before the first step. It comes because of it. The step is first. The knowing comes after. And once I understood why that's true, I couldn't unsee it. So stay with me here, because this is the part that changed everything for me. When you sit at home trying to think your way to the answer, should I take the job? Should I start the business? Should I move? Should I leave this relationship? You're asking your brain to predict how you'll feel about an experience you've actually never had. And your brain is genuinely terrible at that. It only has your past to work with. It cannot accurately imagine the experience of becoming someone you haven't become yet. Think about the last time you dreaded something, a hard conversation, a big trip, a change you didn't choose. And then the real thing showed up and it was nothing like what you'd built up in your head. Sometimes maybe worse, sure. But so often it's just different. That's your prediction engine being wrong in real time. And that's the exact same engine you're trying to use to plan the rest of your entire life from your couch. You're trying to answer a question with information you don't have yet. And there's only one way to get that information. You have to go get it. So every single action you take hands you a piece of data you literally could not have gotten any other way. You try something and go, nope, hated that. Great. That's real information now. You try something else and it lights you up. Also information. It's honestly less like finding buried treasure and more like sculpting. You chip away everything that isn't you, one swing at a time, until what's left starts to actually look like you. And this isn't just me being motivational at you. There's real research on it. There's a principle in psychology that comes out of work by Harvard researchers, Teresa Amable and her colleague Stephen Kramer. They call it the progress principle. They collected something like 12,000 daily diary entries from people, tracking what actually moved the needle on motivation and energy day to day. And you know what mattered most? Not the giant wins, not the raises or the launches. The single biggest driver of a good day was simply making progress on something meaningful, even tiny progress, even one small step. They literally call it the power of small wins. So the motion itself is the fuel. You don't wait until you feel motivated so that you can finally move. You move, and then the motivation shows up to meet you. Let me show you exactly what that looked like for me, because I promise I am not speaking from a mountaintop here. When I started ICMM, I was not certain of anything. I had an idea, and I decided to share that idea with whoever happened to fall into my algorithm. So I made one post, something I'd never done before in my life. And I'll be honest with you, it scared the hell out of me. Putting something that personal out into the world for anyone to see, it was terrifying. But I did it anyway. And then something happened. People started telling me they were in the exact same spot, quietly looking for the same answers. So I realized I had more to say. So I said more. And then I started actually talking with these people. And somewhere in there, I discovered that I love this. The writing, the recording, sharing what's in my head, meeting people, building something that feels like a community. None of that was in the plan because there wasn't a plan. Every one of those steps taught me something I could not have learned sitting on my couch thinking about it. And here's where it goes deeper than your circumstances. And this is the part I really want you to hear. Movement doesn't just change what's around you. It changes who you believe you are. Because people don't change by deciding to become someone different. They become someone different by repeatedly behaving differently. You don't wake up one morning and announce, I'm a healthy person, and have it be true. You wake up, you do the workout, you change how you eat, and you do that enough times that one day, healthy is just who you are now. You don't become a writer by calling yourself one. You become a writer by writing, maybe badly, for a while at least, until one day it's simply true. The action comes first, and then the identity catches up. I look back on my own life, and this is the thing I got wrong for so long. Losing my job did not create clarity. It created space. That's all. A big, blank, and terrifying space. The clarity only came once I started moving differently inside of it. Instead of sitting in my office all day firing off job applications, I recorded a video. Then I started writing. Then I set some goals. Then I built a website. Then I launched a podcast. Then I started interviewing people. Not one of those things existed in the version of me that was sitting at that desk, trying to think her way out of it. Every single step showed me something the previous version of me simply could not have known. So if action is the thing that creates clarity, then why do so many of us, myself absolutely included in this, stay parked in figuring it out mode for months or years? And I'll tell you the real reason, because it took me an embarrassing long time to be honest with myself about it. Figuring it out is safe. As long as you're still figuring it out, you never have to say it out loud. You never have to tell anybody. And if you never tell anybody, you never actually have to do it. Because the second you say it out loud, it becomes real. Now there's a witness. Now somebody might ask you about it in a few months. Now there's a version of this where you try and it doesn't work and people saw. So we keep it vague. We keep it as a someday. And someday feels cozy. But someday is where dreams go to quietly disappear. And honestly, one of the smartest things I have ever done was refusing to let myself hide. I put this whole thing out into the world on purpose, before I was ready, so that people would be watching, so I would have to deliver something. But I was also really honest that I did not have it all figured out, and that I would be working it out with everyone watching. That combination is exactly what dragged me out of figuring it out mode and into, okay, what is this actually going to become? And I think that's another quiet reason people stay stuck. They believe they need to have the whole thing planned out before they're allowed to start. And I'm living proof that's just not how it works. I started by moving first, without the perfect plan. And because I did, I've been able to build a far better plan out of what I actually learned by doing it. You cannot plan your way to that. You can only move your way to it. And I want to be really clear. I still fall into this pit. I do. When somebody says to me, I've seen your videos, they are great. So what are you doing now, Abby? What is this? I feel myself get vague. I feel myself hedge a little. Because part of me still knows that the moment I say it out loud, the moment I actually tell you what I'm building, it's real. And now I have to follow through. Staying in the fog feels like it's protecting you. It isn't. It's just keeping you comfortable while your life stays exactly the same. It's one more way we put our lives on pause. And underneath a lot of this, if I'm being honest, is confidence or the lack of it. People think they're waiting for confidence. Sometimes they dress it up and call it waiting for motivation. But of course, you don't feel confident doing something you've never done before. That's like expecting to feel experience before you've had the experience. It's backwards. Confidence isn't the thing you need before you start. Confidence is the receipt you get after. It's proof of purchase for the thing you already did. That's actually where fake it till you make it comes from. And I think we've totally misunderstood the phrase. It was never about pretending to be somebody you're not or swindling people into believing that you've got it all together. It's about moving anyway, acting with the borrowed confidence of a person who has already done this, until enough reps go by that confidence is just yours. You don't fake the competence. You fake the certainty long enough to go get the competence. So let's name the difference because this is the whole heart of this episode. There is a real difference between wishing and dreaming, and it's not some pretty poetic difference. It's a completely practical one. Wishing is what I was doing in my journals for months. Wishing is writing down what you want and then changing nothing about what you actually do. It's the vision board with no calendar behind it. It's wanting the whole outcome without ever touching your actual Tuesday. Dreaming, the serious kind, the kind that goes somewhere, is getting specific about what you want and then letting it change what you do next. Same exact want, completely different relationship to it. One stays a picture on the wall, the other reorganizes your week. Now, I'm not about to hand you a tidy step-by-step plan or tell you precisely what to change in your life. And here's why. I've spent over 20 years working with and learning from people. And if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that nobody is ever 100%. People be peoplein'. We're messy, we're inconsistent, we start and we stop, and we're all motivated by wildly different things. A rigid 5-step formula is just one more thing for you to feel like a failure about the minute real life happens. So instead of a formula, I'm going to give you some directions and a few questions you can sit with. But before any of these questions, there's one thing you have to know, and it's the foundation for all of it. You are the only expert on your life. Not me, not a book, not the most impressive, most put together person you follow online. So consider this your gentle reminder to stop scanning everyone else for the answer or waiting for someone else to make you happy. Nobody has your answer but you. And that one is so important, I'm going to say it twice. You are the only expert on your life. Stop waiting for someone else to hand you your answer. And honestly, this is the whole reason I named this thing what I named it. ICMM. It stands for I Can Manage Myself. Because at some point, you have to stop asking everyone else what your life is supposed to look like and start managing yourself. Your dreams, your choices, your priorities, your fears. Other people can encourage you. They can mentor you, love you, challenge you, and you want those people around you. But not one of them can decide what a meaningful life looks like for you. That is your job. Nobody is coming to do it for you. And that's not a burden. That's the most freeing thing in the world once it clicks. So here are a few questions to start digging, not to answer perfectly today, just to start turning over. 1. If you've admitted you're not happy, name it. Not in a vague, gray, I'm just off way. Get specific. Why are you not happy? Or actually, the better question is usually, where are you not happy? Is it the work, the relationship, the city, the pace, the version of yourself you've quietly become? You cannot change a single thing you're unwilling to look straight at and name. 2. What would I do this week if I knew for a fact that no one was ever going to ask me how it was going? Strip out the fear of being judged, the pressure to explain yourself, the dread of having to report back, and see what's left standing. Whatever's left when you remove the audience is usually pointing straight at something real. 3. What do I keep circling back to? What's the idea, the dream, the project, the conversation that will not leave you alone? What's the article you'll always click on? What's the thing you could do for hours and suddenly realize you forgot to eat lunch? What problem do you desperately wish somebody else would solve? Those aren't random little interests. They're clues. That pull has been trying to tell you something for a long time. Start listening to it. 4. What do I actually value? Where do I really stand? And I mean your values, not what you think you're supposed to value, not what your parents or society or your industry or the internet told you should matter. What do you want your one life to stand for? Growth? family, adventure, service, creativity, health, curiosity? And then the uncomfortable follow-up. Does my calendar reflect any of that? Because our values don't actually show up in what we say matters to us. They show up in where we spend our time, our money, and our attention. Your calendar and your bank statement are the most honest value statement you'll ever write. And 5, what's one step that moves me towards any of this? Not a master plan, just simple actions you could take this week that your future self would thank you for. And here's why those questions matter so much. Most of us don't actually spend much of our lives deciding what we want. We spend it reacting. We react to the inbox. We react to the group chat. We react to the bills, the notifications, everyone else's expectations and emergencies. And after enough years of pure reacting, we quietly mistake survival for intention. We call being busy a life. So before you can change your life, you have to interrupt that pattern. You have to become intentional on purpose again. That's all these questions are really doing. They're not handing you my answers. They're helping you excavate yours. Because living an unpaused life was never just about chasing some big dream. It's about getting your ordinary, everyday actions to actually line up with what you say you value. That's the whole game. And once you've started uncovering those answers, don't leave them floating around loose in your head. Write them down. Which brings us to a word that people either absolutely love or immediately roll their eyes at: manifesting. It's having a serious moment right now. Some people hear that word and picture pure magic and they hate it. The universe delivering things to your door simply because you wished hard enough. That has honestly never been what it means to me. To me, manifesting is just about making a decision about the future you're intentionally trying to build. It's choosing a direction. It's saying, this is what I want my life to look like, out loud and on paper, and then letting that decision start quietly steering the small choices you make every single day. I think it works, not because it's magic, but because it forces you to get clear and stay focused on what you actually want. It drags the fuzzy wish out of your head and makes you put it into real words. And that alone changes things. My friend Marcy, who, by the way, is joining me right here next week, compares manifesting during a new moon to planting seeds. And I love that image because no farmer on earth plants a seed on Monday and then storms out to the field on Wednesday, furious that there's no corn yet. They plant it, they water it, they protect it. They trust the process, but they also do the work. Every single day, they do the work. Nobody stands there and calls that magic. We call it farming. So why on earth do we expect our dreams to work any differently? If you want things to grow, you have to keep tending it. You don't get to plant it and walk away. And there's one more reason writing it down actually matters. And this part isn't woo at all. The second you name something as important, your brain starts noticing opportunities that were just sitting there the whole time. It's exactly like deciding you want a yellow Jeep and then suddenly seeing yellow Jeeps at every stoplight. They didn't multiply overnight. Your brain just finally started paying attention to them. The same thing happens the moment you get specific about a dream. All of a sudden, you're noticing the conversations, the people, the books, the little openings and next steps that you would have walked right past a week ago. And yes, there's actual science on the writing it down piece, and I promise I'll keep it quick. There's a study a lot of people love to quote, a famous one where 3% of some graduating class had written goals, and decades later were out earning everybody else combined. But here's the thing nobody tells you. That study never actually happened. It's an urban legend. It just got repeated so many times that everyone assumed it had to be real. But a psychology professor named Dr. Gail Matthews over at Dominican University basically said, fine, let's actually test this properly. And then she ran a real study on writing down goals. And what she found held up. People who wrote their goals down were meaningfully more likely to achieve them than the people who only thought about them. The number that gets tossed around is something like 42% more likely. And whether it's exactly 42 or not, the direction is the entire point. But here's my favorite part of her research, and I really want you to catch this one. The group that did the very best wasn't just the group that wrote down their goals. It was the group that wrote them down and shared them with a supportive friend and checked in with that friend along the way. Writing it down, plus one person in your corner, that combination beat everything else. So if you do nothing else this week, let that be your one thing. Take the actual time to write out what you want in your life. Get it out of your head and onto paper or into the notes app on your phone, wherever. And then, if you're feeling brave, tell one person you trust. But writing it down is not the finish line. Writing it down is not the genie in the lamp. You don't get to jot it in your journal and then sit back and wait for the universe to Amazon Prime it to your front door. There is no mantra, no ritual, no perfect morning routine you can repeat that makes it just appear. I say this all the time, and I'm going to keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. If your big dream is winning the lottery, but you never once buy a ticket, you're not going to win the lottery. You're not. You can want it with your entire heart. You can visualize the check. You can tell everyone at dinner about the boat you're going to buy. You can cut out a picture of it and tape it to your wall and look at it every single morning. And none of it matters. No ticket, no win. It's not personal. That's just how it works. A wish is just a dream you never bought a ticket for. And that right there is the whole difference between reality and fantasy. Fantasy is the outcome with none of the steps attached. Reality is you doing one small, maybe kind of unglamorous thing today that moves you an inch closer than you were yesterday. And I'll say the part I most want you to walk away with one more time. You are the only one who can take these steps. Nobody can buy your ticket for you. Nobody can make your dream real but you. Now here's where people trip. Because take a step sounds like it has to be this huge, dramatic, burn it all down kind of move. And it's not. It almost never starts there. The small things are actually more important than the big idea, and I truly mean that. Because the small thing is the thing that gets you moving. Even if the step is just doing a little bit more research on what it would take to get you where you want to go. Even if it's one email, one phone call, buying the domain, reading the first chapter, signing up for the one class. Whatever it is, the moment you actually do it, something quietly shifts inside you. Now you're invested. Now you've got a little skin in the game. It stops being a pretty idea living in your head and becomes a thing you've started. And we protect the things we've started so much harder than the things we've only imagined. And let me just tell myself here, when I started this whole thing, I had no clue what I was doing. And I want to be really honest with you, in a lot of ways, I still don't. I'm learning social media in real time. I'm learning podcasting and the tools and figuring out where all of this is even headed as I go. I do not have a polished 5-year business plan in a beautiful leather binder. I don't even have a vision statement. And maybe that's actually the biggest shift I made this whole last year. I stopped asking myself, what do I hope happens to me? And I started asking, what life am I intentionally trying to build? Those are two completely different questions. The first one leaves your whole future up to chance and hopes it turns out okay. The second one reminds you that, one small decision at a time, you are the one building it. One is a passenger, the other one is driving. And here's what I do have now. I have a direction. I have real goals. I have notes. So many notes. And I have momentum, which I only ever got because I started before I was ready. It reminds me of Chance from our last episode. He didn't map out his entire life on a spreadsheet either. He just knew the direction and he moved. Notes and a direction will beat a perfect plan you never start every single time. Let me take you back to when I first lost my job. I was in the fog, wishing, not moving, not telling anybody anything real, just quietly applying to more versions of the exact thing I just lost. And in the middle of all that, there was one person who looked at me and did not say, "Don't worry, you'll find something just like it." She said something completely different. She looked at me and said, "Abby, maybe this isn't it. Maybe you need to pivot to something where you can be more creative." And that was Marcy. She's one of my best friends, my old college roommate, and fun fact, my personal astrologer. And here's what I want you to understand about that moment. She wasn't handing me a solution. She was doing something rarer and honestly braver than that. She was seeing a bigger version of me than I could see of myself right then. And she said it out loud before I was anywhere near ready to hear it. But here's the part that really gets me. Marcy isn't just the person who told me to move. She is in motion herself right now. She is right in the middle of her own pivot, building something new, moving from the corporate finance world she's known for years towards astrology, which she's been quietly growing on the side. She is not standing safe on the far shore, yelling at the rest of us to jump. She is in the water with us, figuring it out in real time, which is exactly why I've asked her to come on. So next week, Marcy is here. We're going to talk about her pivots, the real, in progress, still figuring it out version, not some tidy after the fact success story. And she's going to get into how she uses astrology to help people find a little direction and maybe even get closer to their purpose. It is going to be such a good one. I cannot wait for you to meet her. Okay, so let's bring it home. If you take one single thing from today, let it be the title. If you're not moving, you're just wishing. Clarity doesn't come before the step. It comes because of the step. Figuring it out mode feels safe, but it's just a nicer looking way of staying stuck. Confidence isn't the ticket in. It's the receipt you get on the way out. And a dream you never buy a ticket for is really, in the end, just a wish. So here's your one thing this week. 2 tiny moves. First, actually write it down. Get specific about what you want, out of your head and onto paper, or in the Notes app on your phone. And second, buy the ticket. Take one small, real action toward it. Send the email. Do the research. Sign up. Tell the one friend. That's your assignment. And I'll happily be your supportive friend. I really want to know, what's the ticket you're buying this week? Drop it in the comments, send me a DM, come find me. Saying out loud to somebody is honestly half the magic. And I'll go first because I'm not going to ever ask you to do anything that I'm not doing. My ticket this week is getting back into a real routine, which for me means starting my day by actually moving my body, working on this, cooking a few healthier meals at home instead of grabbing whatever's easy, carving out real time to learn, using my sauna and cold plunge, and the hardest one, going to bed at a decent hour. Small, unglamorous, but mine. That's the whole point. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening, for sharing these episodes, and for being a part of this community we're building. This show is growing steadily, and more than anything, I'm encouraged by the conversations it's starting. Hearing how these ideas are landing with you is the exact thing that reminds me why I started ICMM in the first place. If today's episode connected with you, please do me the favor and share it with someone you think might need to hear it too. You never know which conversation or which perspective or which small moment could end up making a real difference in someone's life. And don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode. I'll be right here every Monday with a new conversation. new people, new ideas, and hopefully a little encouragement to help you keep living life unpaused. So this week, pick your one intentional thing and go do it. Stop wishing, start moving, and keep living your life unpaused. Until next week, be careful out there.